In 1980, a game called Rogue introduced the subgenre of roguelike video games, and since then a lot of roguelike titles came out. But how does the gameplay of roguelike games look like? General gameplay. Deriving from the concepts of tabletop, nearly all roguelikes give the player control of a character, which they make nearly all roguelikes give the player control of a character, which they make just roguelike point class. Okay, so basically, you start the game as a very weak character, and to get stronger you have to kill enemies, look for resources, and usually the game is divided into rooms and stages. So normal rooms would have some enemies, loot maybe, some secrets, events or a mini-boss. And at the end of the stage you usually fight a boss. And at the start it's going to be pretty hard to go through because we don't have any good items. But by killing enemies and finding new loot we get stronger. When we don't succeed we are going to die, and next time we are going to start from the beginning. But dying is a normal thing here because deaths make us stronger. By getting points, currency and completing certain achievements in game, we unlock new items and features. When we can finally make it till the end, it doesn't end there. After you beat the game you can try to beat it with other characters, most of the time new endings and bosses come to the game, so there is a lot going on here and you are going to need a lot of time for these games because not all of your runs are going to be successful. So I appreciate it a lot when companies put fast mode in their games so I won't fall asleep every time I start a new run. I think my journey with roguelikes started with Don't Starve, which is not like your typical roguelike, it's a very unique game. You're on an island where your goal is to survive, weather changes, monsters and just try not to starve to death. So I've put a lot of hours into Don't Starve, but I've put even more hours into The Binding of Isaac, which is like one of the most recognizable roguelikes. You are playing as Isaac, who is fighting with his mother because she is very religious and apparently something tells her that she needs to kill him. So in items and story there is a lot of influence from the Bible, there are a lot of holy and devil items. We are starting as an arguably normal boy, and at the end of the run we look like a complete abomination. There are a lot of really cool item combos here which are very fun to play around with, but one thing that was very annoying in Isaac and is fixed in games like for example Slay the Spire, you don't really know what items do. You need to spend a lot of time just looking at the wiki to know if this item is good or is it going to completely destroy your run. I like it a lot more when items just say straight away what they do. And the best roguelikes I've played are Don't Starve, this cool like island survival, The Binding of Isaac, very dynamic, fast-paced roguelike with an interesting setting, Darkest Dungeon which is a little more strategic and slow-paced, Enter the Gungeon is a very fast-paced roguelike with a very good combat system, great humor and a lot of references to other games, Dead Cells which is a very speedrun focused 2D roguelike, Risk of Rain 2 which is a third-person roguelike with big maps and hordes of enemies, Into the Breach which is a turn-based tactic roguelike with some very interesting and fun mechanics, and currently I'm playing Slay the Spire. It is a very unique game because it's a roguelike card game. Combining items, well in this case cards, together and making some sick combos is very satisfying to pull off. Well, that's actually a thing with roguelikes, that when you get a sick run is very fun, but when you are very unlucky with items it is miserable. So I like it when the game is not completely lost when you are getting bad items. For example in Gungeon, you can often just outplay the enemies and bosses pretty well after some time. Of course in roguelike gameplay also has to be solid. I think Enter the Gungeon completely nailed the gameplay. It's very fun and challenging, and that setting of just everything being associated with guns is very fun. Phase of the gameplay is also very important, so the player won't get bored, which some of them do poorly. At least at the start of Risk of Rain 2, it's very boring because there are hardly any enemies spawning. And roguelikes also have to be good at managing all the chaos that is happening when we get extremely OP, and everything is just going wild. Because in Risk of Rain 2 we can be extremely overpowered, but we can still die pretty easily from some one-shot attack we are not even able to dodge. That's where the room layout in Gungeon or in Isaac works really well, because it's easier to focus on a room of enemies than an entire map. So in conclusion, looking back, I've actually spent a lot of time playing roguelikes and I had a lot of fun with them. There is just something really enjoyable in finding cool items, combining them together and trying your hardest to get to the end. And roguelikes are also a very good value because they are pretty cheap and the amount of hours you can get out of them is insane at times. But be careful, they are very addicting.